Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, India's top diplomat, is going to be headed to Bangladesh, according to numerous reports. He's headed there on December 10th in order to smooth over some of the tensions that India and Bangladesh are seeing in their bilateral relationship. I know that if you're watching the news, you probably need very little introduction as to why those tensions have cropped up. Essentially, of course, over the last couple of weeks and months, we've seen concerns in India about the state of Bangladesh's Hindu minority. There have been reports of hundreds of attacks on minority groups in Bangladesh. Of course, Bangladesh has significant numbers of minorities, including Christians, including Hindus. But the view is that after the fall of Sheikh Hasina's government in Bangladesh in August this year, there has been increased insecurity on the streets, especially felt by minority communities who were particularly harmed by the fall of Sheikh Hasina. There were reprisal attacks against them, and since then, attacks seem to have continued against the minority community in Bangladesh. This, of course, has always, over the last 75 years, has always had resonance in India, and now you have many people, including members of parliament from the BJP, as well as Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, of West Bengal, coming out and saying that a firmer hand is needed to deal with this crisis. So, of course, what's happening internally within Bangladesh is causing some trouble. Of course, in Bangladesh, there is a view that India backed Sheikh Hasina's government to the hilt, and Sheikh Hasina right now is hard to overstate how deeply unpopular she is among the people of Bangladesh, because she was increasingly seen as an authoritarian, as someone who's extremely corrupt, someone who rigged elections and was responsible for atrocities against the people of Bangladesh. That is a serious concern, and the view now is that among many people in Bangladesh, that India was responsible for helping keep her in power, and therefore there should be some distance between the two countries, or there is at least some ill will at the very least against India on the street in Bangladesh. So these are two big factors that are creating some trouble in the India-Bangladesh relationship, which over the last 10 to 15 years has been extremely solid when you talk about cooperation on counterterrorism, security. You have new economic and infrastructure deals, the opening of rail links and roadways between the two countries. You have the introduction of a new tripartite power deal between India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. This is part of India's vision of pulling South Asian countries much closer to its economy. But what you're seeing now is, possibly because of these political disagreements, a spanner has been thrown into the works of the broader India-Bangladesh relationship, and there is some concern that the broader political tensions could cause trouble for the bilateral partnership, whether you're talking about security, whether you're talking about economics, whether you're talking about broader geopolitical strategy. And so we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about that, what exactly is going on. But the important thing is Vikram Misri, India's Foreign Secretary, is headed to Dhaka to exactly discuss some of these issues in an effort to convey India's perspective and sort of sort out bilateral ties. So this is what's going on. This will not be the first high-level engagement since the Muhammad Yunus-led government took charge in Bangladesh. There was also a meeting between the Foreign Affairs Advisor of Bangladesh, who's really effectively functioning as the interim foreign minister, and Dr. Jaishankar on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly Summit. I think it happened in September this year. So there was a meeting then. This will be a follow-up meeting from that to discuss what has happened in the last couple of weeks and months, and hopefully allay some of the tensions in the bilateral relationship. But what we've had, of course, over the last couple of weeks and months is really political statements being made on both sides of the border, given the political tensions now between the two countries. You had Mamata Banerjee, the Chief Minister of West Bengal, suggest somehow that UN peacekeepers should be sent into Bangladesh to protect the Hindu minority there. We also saw the Home Affairs Advisor, like I said, the interim Home Minister of the Bangladesh government, actually come out and say that, in fact, it's not Bangladesh but India where UN peacekeepers should be sent as well. So there is some trading of blows as well. There have been the Bangladesh government has pushed back on India's characterization of what is happening in Bangladesh. They're saying these reports are propaganda and not based on the facts. There was also, of course, the storming of the Bangladesh Assistant High Commission in Agartala, which took place just a couple of days ago. Bangladesh released a statement saying that it was very disturbed by what had happened. India also, of course, released a statement of regret saying that this sort of thing should not happen. India is cognizant of its responsibilities. Basically, what had happened was there were massive protests against what is happening in Bangladesh, and this happened outside the Bangladesh Assistant High Commission. Then several people managed to break through into the premises of the Assistant High Commission. Several people have been arrested post that by Indian police forces. But what you're seeing is that it became a diplomatic incident. There were serious concerns between India and Bangladesh on this particular issue. So that's where we are at this point in time. With the two sides trading barbs, of course, diplomatic tensions seem to be apparent. What you're also seeing is that there is a significant divergence of views on the question of minorities and what is happening in Bangladesh. In fact, the High Commissioner of India in Bangladesh, Pranay Verma, went in for a meeting with the Bangladesh government, the foreign ministry, just yesterday. And in that meeting, of course, he came out saying that we have a multifaceted relationship with Bangladesh. We don't want any one issue to derail it. So we want to continue working together, and that was a statement asking for solidarity, for more stability in bilateral relations. And the interim finance minister of Bangladesh as well came out saying that, look, regardless of what is happening on the political side, we want to keep the economic relationship relatively stable. We will base this on market forces. We don't want political tensions to interfere with our economic and business relations. So, which is a sign that at least at some levels the government are trying to contain any fallout from the political tensions. But again, I just wanted to, these are just some of the big headline events that I wanted to sort of bring up to you. But again, the main and important question, of course, is Vikram Misri going out to Bangladesh to sort of calm and ease tensions after, of course, from the Indian side, there are concerns about, number one, what happens to the relationship with Bangladesh? Will the new interim government be as open to working with India as Sheikh Hasina was? She was broadly seen to be, this is a tired old label that we use in foreign policy, but pro-India. She was very much seen to be a close partner of India in the region. Will they will the interim government continue to build on that relationship with India? Muhammad Yunus, the chief advisor, the leader of the interim government, said in an interview very clearly that he wants a close diplomatic relationship with India. So you have that, but at the same time, you have serious disagreements on one concern that India has raised, which is the concern of what's happening with Bangladeshi Hindus, and that is going to be a serious concern between India and Bangladesh, because again, like I said, the Bangladesh interim government has made very clear that it sees reports of these attacks on minorities as propaganda. We have Indian reporters go down on the ground who disagree with that characterization. There is a sense of instability and a sense of fear among the Hindu minority community in Bangladesh, saying that, look, we do feel threatened. There is a sense of insecurity. There have been reports of attacks. The minority, there's a minority unity council that has reported hundreds of attacks on minority groups over the last 4 or 5 months. So this is a concern. It doesn't seem that the two sides are seeing eye to eye on this. So there is India's concern about whether its investments in trade, in infrastructure, so on, will stay alive. Whether Bangladesh will respect its red lines when it comes to something like the security of the Hindu minority in Bangladesh. Whether people will whether Bangladesh will respect its red line on the issue of Pakistan. Remember that the government in Bangladesh has called very strongly for there to be a revival of SARC. Remember that SARC has pretty much been defunct for the last several years after a string of Pakistani terror attacks in India. India's view was very much that, look, we cannot talk regional cooperation with you and then you sponsor terrorist attacks against us. That has been a serious concern. But now Muhammad Yunus' government is saying that, look, we should revive a forum like SARC, and that is being taken as an early indication of the fact that actually the government in Bangladesh is not going to be as accommodating to India's security concerns when it came to Pakistan, or at least will look to engage Pakistan again. There was, if my memory serves me correctly, also a direct shipping link in terms of the provision of goods that was also sent to direct from Pakistan to Bangladesh, and this is also something that has not happened for a very, very long time, and that was something that raised concerns that, look, how close is the government in Bangladesh going to be getting to Pakistan? So that is another concern. Of course, you also have other miscellaneous problems coming up, which is, of course, the issue of Adani and the Bangladesh government launching a review of a major power project that was signed with the Adani Group to supply electricity to Bangladesh. So you have these multifarious problems coming up, but really from the Indian side, it is, will Bangladesh continue to have the close relationship that we had under Sheikh Hasina? Will they respect our red lines when it comes to security? Remember, Sheikh Hasina was a very strong security partner of India, helped us fight a number of insurgent rebels in India's northeast. That was a major reason why India was very well disposed towards her, very open to working with us on trade and connectivity, very open on considering India's red lines when it came to Pakistan and terrorism. So the big question in India's side is, will the new government in Bangladesh respect our red lines? Will they take care of the Hindu minority? Because that has political repercussions here in India. From the Bangladesh side, the view is very much one of anger towards India about its support for Sheikh Hasina's government while she was in office. So there is a call for a much more stable relationship. We did have here on the channel an interview with Parvez Abbasi, who's a professor at the East West University in Dhaka, talking to us about the fact that there is the anger against India has faded, but there is still some ill feeling towards the fact that India played such a close role in backing Sheikh Hasina's government. Remember that Sheikh Hasina is deeply unpopular in Bangladesh. That is, again, a divergence of perspectives between India and Bangladesh, but that is the reality of the situation as it stands right now. So that is where we are at this point in time in the India-Bangladesh relationship. India wanting its red lines to be respected, Bangladesh wanting a close relationship with India, but also wanting to, of course, chart, but also, of course, quite miffed at what has happened in terms of India's past support for Sheikh Hasina, and also wanting more Indian understanding for the fact that it needs to distance itself from Sheikh Hasina's policies, perhaps will take a different path on some issues related to Pakistan and China and so on and so forth. So we'll have to see how exactly that relationship between India and Bangladesh plays out. It is not in any way an easy situation, and the political tensions that are playing out right now with the storming of the Bangladesh Assistant High Commission in Agartala, as well as what we're seeing in terms of the trading of barbs between politicians on both sides, shows that actually things are not as stable as they need to be, and tensions need to be smoothed over. That's why Vikram Misri, India's Foreign Secretary, is going to Bangladesh. I hope this was a helpful summation of what has happened over the last couple of days. We will keep you absolutely updated on Foreign Secretary Misri's visit, what develops in the India-Bangladesh relationship going forward, as well as developments on the subcontinent in general. Thank you so much for joining us here on India Today Global.